Hi, it's Randy from Tylano.net. Today I'm going to show you how you can use chalkboard paint in a different way and other than just using it for chalkboards. These are little tiles that I sometimes paint up and use around the house, put little earth magnets on the back and post them up on a magnetic wall so that I can actually have an interactive wall that I can use with the kids. I'm going to show you that in an episode coming up. But what I want to show you today is how I'm going to take some of this chalkboard white, confetti white, and paint it onto a black tile and do a transfer onto a black tile. Why? Because it's a really neat rustic look, and I think it's something cool that you should see. So that's what we're going to have coming up next. So here's a cool idea. I'm going to try something different here. I've never done this before, so this is sort of a live test. But I'm going to actually try to transfer an image onto slate, black slate. The reason I'm going to try it is because, hey, why not? It's a cool looking organic stone that has a nice rough and rustic appearance on the sides of it, and I kind of like that because it kind of leaves a nice distressed look. So the idea is I'm going to want to put my image right onto the surface, but before I do that there's a few things I need to do, and one is I'm going to use our Tylano chalkboard paint, which is confetti white, which is a nice white that I can use as sort of a background color on top and then transfer the image onto the coaster. So that's a neat idea that I think might work well for this application. So the first thing I'm going to do here is what I should always do is make sure I cut my image out so it fits onto the tile. There's an easy way to do this. Grab my cutting board here. I have my image, which I've already primed out, ready for transfer, and I'm basically going to apply my template tile down on the surface. So this way I know that I'm covering the area that I know I want to have transferred. Simply take your edge and run it around. Don't have to be too perfect, because if you have overlap, that's not a big deal, because that's not going to get transferred onto the surface. But now, I've got my little square that I know that I want to transfer onto the surface. The next step is I have to use some Tylano chalkboard white, like I mentioned before, and coat the surface. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And the neat thing about this product is it's environmentally friendly. It's safe to use with children, with adult supervision, I should say. Never leave paint alone with any kids, as I found out the hard way, as my kids like to spread it in wonderful places. And the neat thing about the Tylano chalkboard paint is it has very good bonding strength, so it dries very fast, and bonding strength, it sticks to virtually any surface that you apply it to. So that's one of the neat things about the properties of the chalkboard paint as well. So in this case, basically painting out the edge, and I'm leaving the rough edge just the way it is because I want that kind of rough look for this particular project. So that looks good to me there. And what I need to do is let that dry for about half an hour, and I might actually give it one more little light coat to make sure I have a very opaque background. Okay, my first coaster is nice and dry now. I put it in the oven. It's a little trick you can do. You can put it in the oven for at about 170 degrees for about 15 minutes and then let it cool so that it's room temperature. But that really expedites this dry time, so you get a nice quick curing on the surface. And as you can see, it has a bit of a sheen to it. It's acrylic, so it's going to be transferred with our medium onto the surface. It's nice and easy transfer. And I also did just one coat, but I think you can see by the clarity it's pretty white, and that's basically all I was looking for anyways. So I got the nice broken edge, what I was hoping for. I lay my coaster down, got my image, which I'm ready to transfer onto the surface, cut out. Just kind of measure it out with your eyeballs here, or eyeball it as I should say, so that you know that you got a straight line. I can sort of see the word love there, just a little bit below the border of the edge of the tile, which I want. I think that's probably where I want to put it. So next step is take your Tylano medium, make sure you give it a good shake, and you put a healthy dose over the entire surface of the coaster. And you don't be shy with this stuff because you want to make sure you're getting a good bond. So a nice thick coat over the entire surface, just like I've done here. I'll hold it up to the camera so you can sort of see how glossy it is. And I don't see any areas where I do not see any medium, which is what you don't want, because if you don't have the medium everywhere, the image will not go there. So anyways, it's nicely coated, and that looks good to me. I take my transfer, lay it face down, kind of just move it around with your fingers if you have to get it centered, or to adjust it if you like. You got a little bit of time to work with it. I usually use my fingers at first to try to smooth out any of the bubbles or ridges that you may have, and then take the spreader and I just pull counterclockwise out to the edge. And I usually do this around twice just to make sure I got a nice even transfer with very minimal air bubbles occurring, because that's important, not to have any air bubbles. That looks pretty good to me. As you can sort of see, that's nice and flat. And now I can either let that air dry for about an hour or hour and a half, whatever you like, or I can put it back in the oven at 170 degrees for about 15 minutes and then take it out and see what my transfer looks like. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, well, here's my first transfer on the coaster that I did that covered the whole tile. It looks like it's dried up really well. I can tell by this, by seeing the texture of the stone underneath, which kind of pulls the image down into the surface when it's nice and dry. So that's what we like to see. And it looks pretty dry around the edges. So I think we're going to go ahead and peel this one off. So all you need is a bowl of water. Take some water onto the brush and apply it over the surface of the transfer. And that's when you start to see the beginnings of what's going to come from underneath when you peel it off. I usually let the water sit on for at least 5 seconds, if not 15 seconds. You can't really mess this up. I mean, you can leave it on for a minute if you want, or longer. It's just up to you, but that should be about all we need here. I've saturated the surface so you can see it's nice and glossy and wet, and I can see that it's kind of releasing underneath, which is nice. And then all you do is pull. And there you go. There's your transfer right onto slate, black slate. So we started off with a tile that looked like this, black slate. Used the Tile Chalkboard confetti white, base coated it, and then transferred onto the surface. There's a little bit of residue on the edges, and all you do there is when it's dry, you just peel that off and then put one more coat of the Tile medium over the entire surface to make sure that you seal in the image and protect it. And that's it. Then you're done.